A cup of tea sat on the table, still warm. No one was there to drink it. December 5th, 1872, the Atlantic Ocean, 500 miles from Gibraltar. A ship called the Mary Celeste drifts, sails half set, no one at the helm. The crew of the Gratia spot her, and something feels wrong immediately. She's moving, but drunkenly, like a ship no one is steering. They board her, calling out names. Silence answers back. Below deck, breakfast is laid out. Eggs, bread, cups half full. Nothing eaten, nothing spilled. Beds are unmade as if someone stepped away mid-sleep. A child's toys sit untouched in the captain's cabin. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, 7 crewmen, all gone. No struggle, no blood, no bodies. The ship's only lifeboat is missing, but the cargo, 1,700 barrels of raw alcohol, sits untouched in the hold. 6 months of food and water remain on board. The captain's logbook stops mid-entry, 9 days earlier. 9 days, 10 people vanished into thin air, from a ship still fit to sail. No distress signal, no wreckage, no goodbye. For over 150 years, no one has ever found out why. And what investigators discovered next only deepened the horror. 10 people sailed on the Mary Celeste, and not one of them was ever seen again. Captain Benjamin Briggs was no reckless gambler of the sea. He was a careful man, a religious man, a man who brought his wife and 2-year-old daughter aboard because he trusted the ship completely. That trust should have meant something. The Mary Celeste carried a crew of 8, all described as experienced, sober, reliable, no history of mutiny, no record of violence. And yet somewhere between November 7th and November 25th, 1872, every single one of them vanished from a ship that was still floating, still sailing, still intact. In the cargo hold, 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, industrial grade, meant for fortifying wine in general. 1 barrel, later inspection revealed, was empty, just one. Investigators would spend decades arguing over what that single empty barrel meant. Fumes, fear, fire that never happened. The ship's only lifeboat was missing, deliberately launched, not swept away. That detail matters more than anyone realized at first, because it suggests something chilling. This wasn't an accident that happened to them. It was a decision they made. 10 souls stepped willingly into open water, on purpose, leaving behind food, valuables, even the captain's navigation instruments. Why would trained sailors abandon a seaworthy ship for a tiny boat in the middle of the Atlantic? Whatever the answer was, it had to be something terrifying enough to make solid ground feel less safe than the sea. December 5th, 1872, the crew of the Gratia spot something strange, drifting on the open Atlantic. Her sails are set, catching wind, moving steady, but no one is steering her. Captain David Morehouse recognizes her instantly, the Mary Celeste, commanded by a man he calls a friend. He watches for 2 hours through his spyglass, waiting for a sign of life. None comes. A boarding party finally climbs aboard and finds the ship completely empty. Not the captain, not his wife, not their 2-year-old daughter, not one of the 7 crew. 10 people gone from a sealed wooden world in the middle of the ocean. The only lifeboat is missing, but everything else remains untouched, waiting. 6 months of food and fresh water still sit in the hold. The captain's pipe rests beside his bed. His charts are still spread across the desk. His wife's sewing machine holds fabric mid-stitch, as if she just stepped away. The child's toys lie undisturbed in the family cabin. The final log entry is dated November 25th, 10 days before discovery. It records only wind, position, routine. Nothing alarming. Whatever happened, happened fast, without warning. The cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, is almost entirely intact. Only 9 barrels are found empty. No blood, no struggle, no sign of forced entry anywhere aboard. It's as if 10 people simply stepped off the edge of the world, and their ship simply sailed on, alone, without them. That question would haunt investigators for over a century. Below deck, investigators found something worse than empty rooms. coats still hung on their pegs. Boots sat waiting by the beds, as if their owners meant to slip them on any moment. A child's toy lay tucked beneath a blanket in the captain's cabin. The captain's family had been aboard. His wife, his 2-year-old daughter, gone without a single shoe, missing from the nursery. In the galley, breakfast set half-eaten, the plates still holding food. A pipe rested on a table, tobacco packed and ready to be lit. Sewing lay open on a chair, needles still threaded through the fabric. Whoever left this ship did not pack. They did not pause to grab valuables, money, or even warm clothing. And yet, the ship's only lifeboat was missing. Not stolen, not damaged, simply lowered, deliberately, and never seen again. Investigators began to whisper the only theory that made sense: panic. But panic from what? There was no sign of fire, no struggle, no blood, just silence and a story written in objects no one lived to explain. And then, investigators turned to the ship's log, where the real horror began. Below decks, the salvage crew counted 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. 9 of them were empty, not leaking, not broken, just empty, as if the alcohol inside had simply vanished into the air. The barrels were made of red oak, more porous than the white oak used elsewhere on the ship. Investigators later theorized that fumes had seeped out, filling the cargo hold with an invisible, volatile vapor. One spark, one open hatch. That's all it would take. Some believe Captain Briggs opened the hatch that morning and was met with something terrifying. A cloud of fumes, maybe even smoke curling up from below, enough to convince an experienced sailor his ship was about to explode beneath his family's feet. So they ran, straight into a lifeboat, tied by a single fraying rope to the very ship they feared would kill them. But here's the detail that unravels the theory almost as fast as it forms. The Mary Celeste never exploded. She was found intact, sails set, cargo mostly untouched. If they fled from a fire that never came, what made them so certain they wouldn't survive the weight? The lifeboat was gone. That single fact undoes every theory of piracy or mutiny. You don't lower a boat to escape violence, you lower it to escape fear. And Captain Briggs was not a reckless man. 10 years at sea, a spotless record, his wife and 2-year-old daughter aboard. He would not have risked their lives on a whim. So what made a careful man abandon a seaworthy ship in the middle of the Atlantic? The leaking pump. The 9 empty barrels leaking fumes below deck. A single spark, a rumor of explosion, enough to make a man choose the sea over the ship. But here's the horror hiding inside that decision. The Mary Celeste never sank. She sailed on alone for days, undamaged, unsinkable, found drifting, dry and empty. They fled the one thing that could have saved them. Whatever they feared was never as deadly as the open Atlantic in a rowboat. No wreckage, no bodies, no answers. Just a ship that outlived the people who ran from her. More than 150 years later, the Mary Celeste still floats through our imagination, perfectly intact, entirely empty. And somewhere in that vanished decision, in that one desperate choice to leave a floating ship for an open sea, lies a question we may never answer. What did they see that made the ocean look safer than the ship?